Live from Jerusalem, Ambassador Ido Aharoni, the former Consul General of Israel, and from Tel Aviv, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. He is the former Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson. Jonathan, I'll begin with you. Let's get to the here and now. A half hour ago, Israel reported a second wave, possibly a third wave of incoming missiles launched by Iran. What can you tell us is happening?
Yeah, good evening. Sorry, camera moved a bit.
That's okay.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on. Currently, Israelis have been told that it is safe to go out of shelters. According to reports from rescue services, we're talking about 28 wounded Israelis, 2 of them severely. As far as I know, all of the wounded are civilians, including women and children, some of them. And rescue services have been out and evacuated them to various hospitals in central Israel. I'm not aware of any fatalities, and I hope that it is how it will remain. I think that this Iranian attack on Israel, it answers the question of what the Iranians want to do, if they're looking to de-escalate the situation or if they're looking to escalate. And it appears as if they are indeed happy to escalate the situation. I think that's very important because that indicates where this is going. Up until this attack on Israel, the Iranians had the choice. They could either count their losses and basically allow Israel to finish their nuclear program, their weapons program, without Israel expanding its strikes on Iran. But the Iranian regime chose differently, attacked and fired a few hundred ballistic missiles at Israel and caused civilian casualties. And now what Israel is likely to do, there's no official statement of it yet, but what I think Israel will now be doing is broadening the scope of targets that will be attacked in Iran, and including targets that are regime sensitive or perhaps even national infrastructure related to oil, gas, and other important things.
Ambassador, obviously, all bets are off. All talks are off at the moment. Iran has canceled talks that were scheduled for this weekend with the United States. Can you give us a sense right now of what that temperature is like, especially considering that, yes, as Jonathan Conricus just said, Israel limited its attacks to the nuclear facilities. In fact, we've got some video of Natanz. That is where the underground nuclear facilities are in many cases for them. There's some smoke coming up from that, and we are hearing from the IAEA that radiological and chemical contamination has been detected inside the facilities. But now you've got Iran coming through and hitting a building in Israel and targeting civilians. So does this end all possibility of any discussion?
Well, I think, as was said before, the Iranians, the regime is interested in further escalating the situation. But let's not forget that both Israel and Iran, and certainly President Trump, are acutely aware of the limitation of deploying military power. At the end of the day, the president would like the Iranians to go back to talk about the deal and to perhaps voluntarily say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's end it here before it further escalates. This is a scenario that we will all welcome, obviously. And there's a limit to what Israel can do. Let us not forget that the Iranian nuclear program fundamentally is based on knowledge. That knowledge cannot be destroyed. I mean, we can destroy and inflict major harm on their infrastructure, military, civilian, but at the end of the day, the knowledge exists. And so the problem is to deal with the motivation of this regime in the first place. And the capabilities are secondary to the motivation. And I think that what President Trump and the Israeli government are trying to do is to apply maximum pressure on the Iranian regime and to somehow empower and embolden the Iranian people to rise up against their own regime.
Yeah, well, we've seen that get close before, and then it was crushed. So it is a very, very onerous regime as we continue to watch that. Jonathan, last night we got very rare footage of Mossad, the Israeli undercover, the spy agency, and how they were able to penetrate the ground areas of Iran months ago to prepare for this so that they could have exploding drones. And forgive me if this needs to be corrected, but as I understand it, exploding drones, which overnight, before the Israelis launched their air attack, were able to take out at least some of the missile launchers to clear the area for safe moves here. Can you give us a sense of why that video is now released by Israel? Usually they don't do such things.
No, you're right. The Mossad doesn't usually release footage of its operations. I think there's, a dimension of psychological warfare and intimidation, and to really humiliate the Revolutionary Guard, the Quds Force, the Iranian regime, and to show them for the paper tiger that they are, at least in terms of their defensive capabilities. I think that's the intention behind what Mossad did. And yes, I mean, when the dust will settle and people will have the ability to really evaluate what the Mossad, Israeli Air Force, and other components of the Israeli defense establishment really did, I think it is out of this world and unprecedented. The amount, the effect of what Israel did against the Iranian regime in the opening strike, and then what Israel has continued to do in Natanz, in Fordo, and in other locations is quite significant. I would say very significant. Mossad had an absolutely crucial part in that. This is the culmination of months and years of work on the ground, building networks, infrastructure, recruiting agents, and having the necessary people deployed on the ground without the Iranians knowing about it, and using them precisely when Israel wanted to.
Ido, Democratic lawmakers here and some other critics are saying that this is a terrible thing, what Israel has done, and they've only made the region more unstable. What is your response to that? What do you say to respond to the fact that Israel, in some people's eyes, actually did the rest of the world's dirty work by hitting Iran's nuclear facilities, which were on the threshold of being able to produce actual nuclear bombs?
Absolutely. And Iran has been the foremost instigator of instability and terrorism, not only in Central Asia, in the Middle East, and in North Africa, but also in Latin America, and even some attempts in Washington, D.C. So Iran is a big problem. It's been a big problem for the United States and for Israel and the rest of the Western civilization since the late 1970s, the early 1980s. And I think that the response that we've seen from Europe, especially from France, only indicates that the Western civilization is fully realizing that Israel is indeed at the forefront of this struggle against the weaponization of Islam as manifested by the Iranian regime.